Hey, good evening. So I'm sorry I'm a little bit late. A few reasons, but one of them was technical difficulties, and the other was I fell down a bit of a Twitter hole. And we are definitely going to be working on one of these from this Artist Loft kit tonight. But you know, there are a couple things I wanted to talk to you guys about before we dive into that, because I don't really ever just chat with you guys, like, you know what I mean? Like, usually we're talking about what we're working on and chatting, but I wanted to talk about something that has been like floating around my brain. So the first is I am working on a coloring book version of Lilliputian Living. So here are a couple of new illustrations for it. This one is a potential exterior cover. This one is a potential title page. And then this one is like another potential cover. And the line arts are going to be in the coloring book as well, because I love them too much to not include them. But I wanted to show them to you guys because I've been working really hard on trying to get those done as quick as possible, because I have a bunch of shows in October and I was hoping I could have the coloring book ready to sell at those shows. So that's definitely something to look forward to. I also wanted to show you guys, oh, is it the same thumbnail? Did I? Yes, it is. Duh. Sorry, Becca. Yeah, I have a feeling this kit is gonna be a humdinger for me. But I have a bunch of shows in October. I'm starting October off with Cartoon Crossroads Columbus, and then I'm doing the Andouille Festival, and then I'm doing the Louisiana Book Festival, and then I'm doing the Destrehan Heritage Festival. So I've got like a bunch of shows lined up, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be the first year since the Panini that I did a bunch of shows, and that I got to meet a bunch of people, and that I got to talk about and sell my comics again in person. So I am really looking forward to it, and I really hope to have the coloring book ready, because a lot of people have asked me to turn Lilliputian Living into a coloring book. Some people try to color in that tiny Lilliputian Living book and are like, oh, it's kind of small. It's like, because it's not a coloring book. But I wanted to kind of show you guys what the interior is looking like right now. So let's see if I can get that set up for you so you guys can actually see it. I'm gonna do it the cheap way. So this is, we're gonna change some stuff, not super much, but this is still a work in progress. I'm still researching coloring books. We're probably going to do this one through CreateSpace, just because that is an inventory system that's going to be more manageable for me, the print on demand, rather than what we did for volume 2, which was kickstarted and then order 1,000 copies. We still have 800 copies of volume 2 that need to go to good homes. So if you enjoy comics about tiny people, or if you have a relative or a loved one or a friend who you think might enjoy it, oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. You can order it at 7inchcara.com. So this is kind of what the coloring book is looking like right now. Some of these are from the first volume, so some of them are sparser, but they do become more detailed later on. So I wanted to work on some new illustrations that had like a lot of detail and not a lot of spot blacks, just to kind of balance it out a little bit better. So that's kind of what you guys are seeing there. I've got some other ideas that I want to work on. But as we kind of go through the years of Lilliputian Living, so here we're in year 3. I couldn't include year 2 because that's all grayscale, but that's in the compendium, stupendium, the little chunk of a volume. In fact, this book has stuff from year 5, and that was never in the first book. So it's kind of a balance of different years and different illustrations. But I'm excited about it. Like, the longer I work on tiny people stories, the more I just want to work on tiny people stories. And speaking of, I've been working on 7-inch Kara. I've been penciling chapter 9. It is taking forever, but I'm almost done penciling it, which means that I can start watercoloring it soon. I say that with some quotes because October is so packed with shows, and I have a lot of prep I need to do before those shows, that I don't know that I'll be able to really work on painting Kara. But as soon as my show season is over, I can get back to working on the comics. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Trying to get to year 5. And on that note, during October, I'm going to be working on year 6 of Lilliputian Living. So that's going to be really a challenge, but every year I work on Lilliputian Living. The first year I had a friend's wedding, and since I was a bridesmaid, we went a week early and we helped out. And then last year, Hurricane Ida hit, and we were still evacuated. We didn't have electricity in our house during October, so I did a lot of Lilliputian Living, kind of like crammed in there. So I feel like if I can do that, then I can. Oh, and then most years I lived in Nashville and was working on Lilliputian Living. It fell at the same time as Handmaiden Bound, which is a show. So I feel like it is going to be an uphill battle and kind of a challenge, but I think I can do it. And I'm hoping to start like some of the sketching and the pre-prep during September to make it easier. But I'm excited to work on that and share that with you guys, and hopefully you guys are looking forward to seeing that. But this is what the coloring book looks like right now. There's going to be some changes, but I'm excited about it. Okay, so there was another thing I wanted to kind of talk to you guys about, and it's a little bit of a rant. I mostly just wanted to talk about it with people, so it's not really like aimed at anybody, but no, my brain, I've had a migraine all day, and my brain literally cannot do 2 things at one time right now, which is a shame. Like, I'm not in pain, but I've got the aura. But since I already scheduled the stream and told you guys about it, I didn't want to cancel it. I'm not going to talk about this super long, but it is something I wanted to talk about because here on YouTube, I don't really talk about my life or strong things too often, mostly because people don't really seem very interested in it. But I've also gotten some blowback on it. So on Twitter, someone, I don't want to name names mostly because I don't want to dogpile that person, but someone was talking about convention paneling. And if you know me, you know most of my income doesn't come from YouTube. It doesn't come from selling comics. I wish it did. It comes from teaching in person. And this isn't like a direction in my life I really set out to take. My mom was a teacher, and I saw how much of herself got consumed by her job, whether she wanted it or not. And I didn't really want that for myself. But we live in a society, and I have bills to pay, and I have a skill set that I love deeply and want to share with other people. And teaching in person is a way that I can earn income to do that. So I teach a lot. And this person was tweeting that they are talking with some of their friends, and they and their friends feel that, and I'm paraphrasing a bit, it says how useless at least 95% of panels at comic shows are unless you're looking to miss a bunch of sales at your table for an hour or do some free work for the organizers by researching, organizing, and running a panel for them. And this person is talking about it's useless for the person hosting the panel. And they did say that there are some exceptions, mostly talking about the kind of panels they would personally go to as an attendee, run by their friends or by very cool comic artists, which they deem as a rarity. And that actually didn't really bother me. Everybody's entitled to their own feelings. What I thought was interesting about it is most of my teaching earlier on was done hosting free workshops at anime cons. So I used to talk about this a lot on how to be a con artist and a lot in my con reviews, but some shows, not all, are willing to when I say give you the table for free, it's not a gift. You're working for it in return for 3 workshops. And a workshop can be an hour and a half, 2 hours, but that's just at the show. The time you spend prepping for the show and bringing those materials for people to use, you're not really compensated for that. So a lot of the anime cons I would do, if they asked me to do workshops, I would try to trade with them. So I have a lot of experience teaching panels, like hands-on panels at cons. And these days, when I get asked to do panels, and I've been getting asked to do a lot of workshops, it's frankly libraries or shows looking for a babysitting panel for their younger, very young attendees. And basically what happens is they ask me to teach them how to make mini comics. The parents drop them off and then pick them up. I never get to meet the parents. The parents don't even come into the room, which, as someone who sells kidlit comics and all ages comics, it's really hard because the kids seem to really like my comics, but I never even get the chance to sell them because I don't even get to talk to their parents, and I'm not going to sales pitch the kids. So I kind of get what this person is saying about convention panels being a dead end for the artists hosting them. You're probably not going to get paid for your time. You're certainly not getting compensated fairly for your time. A lot of the shows I've done don't even promote all of their workshops or all of their panels. Like, your workshop might not make it into the program guide. It's entirely on you to get people to go there, which is cruel for something you're doing for free. Or they may choose to spotlight some of the panelists, the more popular creators, in the program guide with a photo and a description. But when it comes to your workshop, because you're not as popular, it's just like a really short blurb in tiny text. So that isn't useful when you're a nobody creator or an unknown creator who's working on building up a name, and you have a skill set that you've honed and you've studied and maybe you went to school for. You can't really build up a name or recognition by doing those kind of panels, especially not when you're teaching 9-year-olds who, if they remember your name, you're really lucky. So I mean, shoot, a lot of the 9-year-olds I know still try to call me mama, and I'm not their mama. So I can't expect them to remember Miss Becca, let alone Miss Becca Hilburn, let alone Miss Becca Hilburn has a comic and it's good and I want to read it. So, like, I agree on that regard that convention workshops can be, I don't want to say like a dead end, although it does feel that way. It can be an act of love. It's an act of sacrifice. You're giving a gift. And I personally feel like shows that charge admission should be paying all of their panelists at least something for their time as a mark of respect. But if the show is free to the public, I personally don't necessarily mind donating my time, though it would be awesome if they did like a tax form so I could write that donation off on my taxes. There's a lot of ways that these kind of shows can improve how they present the panels, how they compensate their panelists, because financially, money isn't the only way you can compensate somebody. There's a lot of different ways you can compensate somebody, and most of them, at least when they're dealing with me, which is on the smaller end and teaching a younger crowd, there is no talk of compensation. Now, I do teach with a lot of libraries, and I do charge an hourly rate for that. So I'm not really talking about them in this moment. I'm more talking about like conventions. Anime cons are really bad about this. If you don't inquire about trading workshop hours for a table, they're probably not. It takes a special panel director to actually think to offer you that. And I mean like special as in they're amazing. But I've had con owners, like the guy who used to run MechaCon, which is now defunct, so I can say this and I'm not gonna feel bad about it, refer to me in inter-office emails. And I know this because several of my friends were staff and forwarded me what he said. He called me the B word for female dog. I don't want to demonetize myself. Like, referred to me that way to other staffers because I asked to be compensated with just half the table cost for my time. So there's like a really pervasive attitude that needs to be changed. And I wanted to talk about this in the stream because that's part of the reason I was running a little bit late, is it just like really sent me in a tizzy. And I also had like have really strong feelings about it in both directions. I both strongly agree with some of the things the person said, but I also strongly disagree that it's useless because I mean, I grew up in an area where there was no comics, anything. Our library wouldn't even stock comics. If it wasn't Calvin and Hobbes, they didn't have it. I didn't live near any comic shops. What I knew about comics came from web comics online, and I'm an internet old, so there wasn't YouTube and there weren't online drawing tutorials. And I would have loved to attend comic creation panels at my local shows. So part of the reason I agree to teach these things, even though sometimes I get treated very poorly in return for what I'm doing, is because teenage me would have wanted that, and I'm always trying to make the world a little bit better than what I experienced. I don't think anyone, just because I went through hardship, I don't think other people should have to go through that hardship, right? So on like a vocational level, as the daughter of a teacher, I feel really strongly in teaching the next generation and making that accessible for them both online and in person. But as a person with bills to pay who isn't at her table when she's teaching a workshop, Joseph mans the table, but a lot of people don't have somebody else who can table sit for them. And a lot of shows do not offer any kind of help in that regard. So there isn't even like that reciprocal, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. I think there's a lot of ways that shows can improve on how they compensate the artists who are giving up their time and talent, can promote those artists in a way that feels like we're being treated like we're important and valuable and like we're contributing something that people care about, instead of like we're garbage and we're a pain in their butts and they really would rather not have to deal with us, which is how I've been treated at a lot of shows that I've been to. Like they would have booked anybody else that they could have, was kind of the impression I got from how they were treating me. And I don't think I had done anything to deserve that, and I'm sorry they couldn't pull the big name they were hoping to pull, but I'm here, and I'm here to work, so you don't have to treat me like that. Anyway, that's kind of like where my head was, and I wanted to talk to you guys about it because I don't talk about these things that often anymore. I've been accused here on YouTube of like just complaining all the time, and so I've kind of like stopped talking about these issues as much because I don't want to be seen as like a very negative person. But I also think if you never talk about the negative, then nothing ever changes and nothing can improve. So I wanted to, because it was on my mind, and because I've got all these shows coming up, I wanted to talk about that a little bit, just to get it out there and to kind of share the other side of the story. I can definitely see that if you were like a super popular comic artist, why you, and people are coming to your table in droves and they're excited to meet you and they know who you are and they're here to spend money. I could see why you wouldn't want to get up from your table to go to a whole other room that's kind of hidden in the bowels of the show to go teach a workshop that might be attended by 10 people if they didn't promote the show, your appearance. But on the other hand, if you are someone who isn't well known and you aren't particularly well networked, doing workshops could be a way to meet more people and to hopefully build up respect and to build up name recognition for yourself. Like theoretically, that would be. Now, I have to say, as someone who did that all the time, like bam, 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 shows and workshops all the time for 10 years, that's not the reality. Like, I don't have much to show from that time other than crippling migraines. So, like, I say it with wishful thinking that could be a reality, but it's not. And it probably should change, because if it doesn't change, fewer and fewer people are going to be willing to share their knowledge and share their experience and their expertise with people if there is nothing, not even the feel goods in return. So, like I said, I just wanted to talk about it because it's like, I've been thinking about something similar to this for months. I've been really burnt out with teaching for months. And some of that comes from some of the libraries I teach with. The person who booked me isn't even there for my workshops. And the people they have to assist me, I can tell they don't want to be doing that day. And I shouldn't be, that's unprofessional. I shouldn't be able to tell. You should treat me with the same respect you would treat your patrons. But I can tell. Or they like sandbag and they don't actually help with any of the cleanup because I have to bring my materials for my students to use. And they don't help with any of that. And I've just been kind of getting more and more burnt out from that. Or parents will just like dump their kids there and the kids are rowdy and I'm like managing the classroom while also trying to teach. And I'm not... Yeah. I'm sorry. It's been something I've been thinking about a lot, and I've had some really bad depressive spells regarding it, and it's something I'm trying to work through and make some decisions for myself. So it just kind of hit at a time. All right, so Joseph's like, all right, Becca, come on. All right, so today I thought it would be fun to paint one of the Michael's Artist Loft kits, and part of my reason for wanting to do this is because I would like to start offering some color it yourself watercolor kits myself. At shows and maybe in the Natto shop. So I thought this could maybe be a good way for me I could copy off of them, basically see what works for them and what I don't like and what I would change. So I'm doing a little bit of market research. So I got this on sale for $5. Original price is 10. That is not the price that I would be charging. I'd be charging a lot more. It says that it is a watercolor painting kit, florals, and we do a lot of florals here, so I figured this might be in my wheelhouse. A fun and relaxing activity for teens and adults. Paint and brush included. Contents on back. So we have 4 8x10 illustrations that have been pre-printed. My camera isn't picking it up, but it is a super faint gray. 1 synthetic hair paintbrush, 8 watercolor paints in the tray. And they have instructions, but frankly, I don't necessarily, none of this is like new watercolor information. So I'm not gonna go over that because I'm sure most of y'all probably know that. And if you don't, I actually have tutorials that will explain it much better. So one could replicate this packaging with one of those clear seal bags. So this is very doable so far. And it is resealable, although you have to be kind of careful with these because they want to stick to themselves. All right, so I'm going to save that because I'm going to repackage it. Inside is a silica pack, which makes sense because we have watercolors inside. We have our watercolor printouts on what looks like a cellulose watercolor paper. I would say maybe 140 pounds. It's like somewhere between the 90 and 140, closer to the 140. It's got kind of like this crocodile skin texture too, which is not my favorite texture for watercolor paper. So if I do recreate this as a kit, I'm gonna go with probably a cotton rag, either Fluid 100 or Stonehenge Aqua was what I was thinking of. Oh, hi, Art Snacks. Oh, look how... Okay, so when they said they included the paints, I love it, but I do love it actually. Okay, they are so tiny. They are so tiny. Let me grab a half pan for scale. They are the tiniest chiclets. I wonder who's producing these for them. I'm curious about that. I'd have to look into that.
They look shallow too.
They are very shallow. But frankly, you get 4 illustrations. This is enough for 4 illustrations. I'm interested in the quality. This is better than I expected, to be real. So I'm already like a little delighted because it's like, okay, I know they're like they're like paints for mice. They're very cute. And the plastic is better than I thought it would be. I thought it would be that really cheap, crunchy plastic that you guys know what I'm talking about. It's actually a sturdy plastic holder that I could reuse if I wanted to. And something I kind of like about the format is this is thin enough that I could clip it into a sketchbook if I wanted to for plein air painting. So I kind of like that. So there's these 4 mixing surfaces, but y'all, these are not, there's nothing to these. And then there's no real painting instructions. There's no painting advice. I was hoping honestly for some step-by-step or like a link to a, it does look like a control panel. I keep thinking it looks like candy, so that's not good. I'm gonna have to get a glass. Obviously, I'm gonna have to get some brushes, paper towel, a mixing palette, a glass of clean water, which I will do. Also a glass of drinking water. I was hoping for instructions. There are none. Did the package say anything about the paints? I don't think so. No, it did. No, nothing. These kind of look like they might be Supervision paints. Not Supervision, Superior.
Is that little display supposed to be the instructions? You're supposed to emulate?
I think so, but these are all digital. Like if you... Yeah.
They're not even painted?
No, they're not painted. If you know what you're looking at, they're definitely digital. So that's awesome. Yeah, I was hoping there'd be instructions or like a link to a tutorial or something. No, there is no pigment info. There's no paint names. There is nothing. Nothing. No instruction sheet. So I love this. When I do my own kits, I'm probably going to do paint dots made for ants by ants. And I'm definitely going to have instructions as well as links to how you can paint along, because I just feel bad for like anybody who like bought this kit like, I'm gonna learn how to paint. Like, no, you're not today, friend. Maybe today, maybe if they're watching the stream. So let's take a look. Oh yeah, this is definitely cellulose based because that back is flat. It is not smooth, but it's like mixed media paper texture, so not really a watercolor paper texture. They're gonna put a sticker. Oh no, I don't think so. I will probably say some unkind things about it, and they're not gonna want to claim it. But this is great because this is market research. I can already see a bunch of ways that I can improve on this, so I'm down. I don't think y'all will be able to see, because it's very faintly printed. It's meant to look like graphite lines. We have sunflowers. We have orchids. I'm leaning towards the sunflowers. We have roses, which is also a nice, like all the designs are nice looking. And we have poppies. So I don't want to do the orchids. However, I will let y'all pick even though you can't see. So sunflower, roses, poppies. Sunflower is 1, roses is 2, poppies is 3. And I picked it up. That's the kind of person who picks it up. A glutton for punishment. Someone who enjoys a little light torture. I'm going to go grab a glass of water, some paint brushes, because y'all, like, what's the price point on this pack? I paid $5 because I don't like torture that much, but it was a $10 at full price.
Why aren't you going to use their brush for paint?
I mean, they only gave me 1 brush.
Yeah.
And it is a nylon brush, and I'm biased. I will use it at least once to talk about it, but I don't like nylon brushes, and because they just drip water everywhere. And this ferrule is wiggly, like I can feel it wiggling on me. So I don't want to rely on just that brush. Oh, that's another question for myself though. Should I include watercolor brushes when I do the kits?
I asked you that when you first pitched it, and you said you were probably going to include...
The Zen watercolor brushes, the synthetic Zen brushes are pretty good, and they're not badly priced. And if I made 10 kits, 12 kits, I could hit bulk pricing. So I might include 1 or... That's a decision for later. I'm going to go get all the things we just talked about, and I'll be right back. Is the music good? Can they hear the music?
No, I was going to tell you.
Oh, well, you can fix it while I go grab things.
Hello, stream people. Oh, I forgot to unmute. I have the stream in my ear, and I'm going to try to raise the music because I can't hear it at all. I'll be right back. Yeah, I had to unmute.
I should have you paint one of these another time. And he's like, no, 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 no. No, no, no.
Okay, now I can kind of hear the music.
Which image won our whole?
It looks looks like sunflower. I think sunflower's the only one that got any votes.
Okay, that's cool with me. Oh, where are my headphones that I lost?
Alright, hopefully that's good. Medivh wants me to paint.
Next time. Okay, so I'm going to try to get some photos of these images and see if they even show up. I can kind of get them. So what I'm going to do is I will probably, I was going to say Discord them to myself and have it up on the screen so that you guys could see what the original image looked like. And it sounds like sunflower one. So I'll put these aside and coerce Joseph into painting one of these at another time. Okay, so I've got a cup of clean filtered water with a paint puck inside to scrub my brush. I do need to remove the sizing out of this. I have their paints. I'm not going to pre-activate them because I think they would just disappear. I'm going to tape this down. Oh, I used up all my NT tape. And I don't know where my blue tape went because we were recently house painting and for some reason the blue painter's tape gets used by the people painting. Huh? Yes, thank you. I bought a kit that's similar from Vitalis and it's the Italian art kits that you're talking about, those are very nice. They sent me one years ago to talk about, so I think I have an unboxing video. Those are definitely worth the $70. There's a lot of care and attention that goes into those. I never painted along, mostly because I never really had the time to do it, but I think they look great. Dawn loves Taklon and nylon brushes, but some nylon brushes are really stiff. Yeah, this one is one of those. And Art Snacks said, you're making your own kits, eyeballs? I'd like to. So what I want to do, so this is born of spite. Last year for the fall festival, I have these cool watercolor illustrations. They're not watercolor. They're like watercolor wet into wet paintings of the state of Louisiana. And they're actually pretty simple to do if you have the materials. So I was selling them at a lower price point. And all I heard was people talking about how they were going to go home and just do that thing. And you know what? Instead of fighting with them about it, I was like, you know what? I'm going to make kits. Because if they're going to do it themselves, I might as well benefit from that. So I am at the least going to do the paint your state kits for Louisiana, but I was also thinking about doing, because these are to sell at Louisiana shows, so like some fleur-de-lis designs, maybe some crawfish designs, and then maybe even later on some of the Lilliputian living. What I want to do with it is my disappearing blue lines technique, and just include in the instructions that you're going to want to pencil over it, trace over it first, or you could ink it. Okay. We've got our sunflowers. We've got our paints. Let me see. I'm going to pull up some sunflower reference. Got some good ones. Do you guys want me to swatch the colors? I'm not going to swatch it on this, but swatch it on something else. Sorry, I'm trying to add a window so you guys can see. There we go. Yeah. Every time, it's like I'm learning how to do this all over again. I'm gonna fix it, don't worry.
Yeah, this is why you step up these things before the stream starts.
I didn't have my reference. I didn't know what they were gonna pick. Thank y'all for being so patient with me. And for letting me ramble, talk about cons and panels earlier. I do appreciate it. I needed to get that off my chest so that I could move forward with my life and make new decisions. Not really. I'm just going to keep making the same choices. Stay? Nope. See, that's a new choice. That's a different choice I should make, is to get a new Rode mic arm or fix mine. I'm going to send myself... Oh, I have to rotate it. So how are y'all doing? How's y'all's week been? What y'all been up to? Oh, thank you. How have you been? It's been a while. My brain wanted to combine the two sentences of been a minute and been a while into Bennett. There we go. That would have almost worked. I'm not that punny. I can't take credit for that. That's the ADHD trying to cram 2 words into 1 sentence.
Do you have the chat?
Not yet. I'm trying to get the sunflower image up, like the line art, so that they can actually see what it looks like. It's a little faint. Oh, never mind. All right, never mind. I'll just continue because now you can see it. So. Oh, and Dr. Bennett said, so happy your lives are back. Yes! My mom was painting, and I do sincerely appreciate her spending all that time painting, but I am also glad that we're not doing that anymore. All right, so painting the house. Joseph voted that we don't swatch. So I guess I'm okay with that. I think I'm going to start with the background. Ooh. Oh, shit. Can y'all see those optical brighteners? I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up or not, but yeah. Oh, it's like milk. Blue milk. Oh. I would definitely go with nicer paints for the kits I want to do. They would get paint dots, but probably paint dots. Although I have a resin mold for like these tiny watercolor container things, and Joseph was telling me earlier today I need to use my resin because it's been a year. So maybe I could use my resin for that. So this kit, it came with instructions, but it was the most basic of like, this is how you watercolor instructions. It didn't even come with good reference images because the reference images they included were like digital recreations, and I don't really consider that to be a good reference. So I pulled up some reference of sunflowers, as you guys can see here, and I mixed this blue, which is supposed to be like an ultramarine, but it's more like a blue milk, and this cerulean blue together to get kind of a sky blue. And I'm doing kind of a outline around the sunflowers and then blending it out with water. And honestly, so far, not too bad. I do not think these paints would be up to like a lot of work, but you know what, for $10, it's not too bad. I'm honestly very charmed with the palette. Not the paints in the palette, but the palette itself. I'm a sucker for tiny things if you're new here. So no one should be surprised that I'm charmed by the palette, but it's better quality than I expected. but my expectations for this were really low. Now, one thing is that these lines, they're not blue lines, these gray lines, these graphite lines in heavy air quotes, they were probably printed with either a pigment printer or a toner printer because they are not reactivating and they're not moving. But they're printed pretty lightly, so I have a feeling like once we're done painting this that they're not going to be very noticeable. Just doing a little bit of wet into wet to kind of, so that it's not like, I'm not trying for clouds and I'm not trying for a sky. I'm just kind of letting the spirit move me. Oh, let me check OBS real quick just to make sure y'all can kind of see. We'll keep improving the camera setup as time progresses. I mean, it beats last week where the aspect ratio was all wrong. The paper's not terrible either. It's not my favorite for watercolor, but if I wanted to just paint for relaxation, or if I felt like I was like, you know, today I would really like to paint somebody else's line art. I just want to paint. It's not bad. You do need to tape it down. I am getting some buckling with it. And I am also having some difficulty staying in the lines, but hopefully I can clean that up later. And it's pretty relaxing. I mean, I think the whole point of something like this is so you can just like chill out and not have to worry about being a great artist or being super good at drawing. I know that keeps a lot of people from pursuing art the way they'd like to. So a kit like this could be a good way to build confidence, maybe a way to practice some skills. I do wish they'd included even just like tips and tricks, you know, with photos would have been nice, because I could see this being like a popular summer activity for teenagers and for adults, but I mean, you know, like I could see hanging out with a group of friends and like each person gets a different one. I'm gonna end up ASMRing myself and falling asleep. Something, while I don't love this kind of paper, it does work for the quality of paints we've got here. We're getting some granulation, we're getting some visual interest going on. So, I don't know, it's like this combo is really, currently, we haven't really gotten into the painting, but it's punching above its weight class.
Did you bring up the chat?
Yes, I have the chat up. Give me a sec, let me finish this line. Because that's the thing about watercolor is it'll dry on you. And then you can't necessarily do what you need it to do. Now, I'm not even attempting to use their mixing surfaces. I don't think those are big enough. If they decided to redo this as like a card set, this might be a good size. Also, I think this would be a charming idea for a card set. I could see that being fairly popular. Okay. Like mail to someone else? Yeah, like mail to someone else. Kind of like origami. So, Dawn said, I made my own advent calendar and put my own supplies in it. After 9 months, I don't remember what's in the box. Yes! You know, I was looking at big enough advent calendars for art supplies, and I was having a hard time finding them because I also love that idea. And Anna said, good plan, Dawn. I wouldn't either. Me either. By December, it would be like a total surprise. Joseph said, I was wondering how the surprise was going to work. That checks out, though. Yeah, he knows. I thought maybe you gave someone your list of options and told them to choose from it and pack the days. I also thought about asking Joseph to put together one for this year. Dawn said, I made the advent calendar last year in December 2022, so it's like a real advent calendar. And Dawn said, will you buy another Arteza advent calendar? No. I'll talk about that. Anna said they need you as a consultant, Becca. I will happily be a paid consultant for any art supply company or distributor or store that wants me. I love messing around with art supplies, and I love painting, and I love teaching art. So, like, all of that is stuff that I like to do. Joseph says, if Bowie gets up during the stream, Becca will put him on camera. He's rocking his new Thunder shirt / jacket. Yeah, so my mom got a Thunder shirt for her very bitey cat, Dax. And it didn't help Dax. Dax is still very bitey. So his problem is he was found outside in O'Reilly's by a railroad track. So his kittenhood was like kind of rough. And I think he's probably got the cat version of PTSD. And he doesn't really know how to show affection. So he thinks biting all the time is an appropriate response. She was hoping the Thunder shirt might help him feel more calm, and it didn't. So I was like, well, I'll take it, because Bowie's got, like, legit diagnosed anxiety. He used to live with 2 older cats, and I mean, like, they were, like, 22. And they passed away a couple years ago, and he's just been really anxious ever since. So the Thunder shirt has only been on him for a couple of days. I mean, obviously, we don't just, like, leave it on him. But he's only been wearing it sporadically for the past couple days. And he seems like, it's weird because he doesn't really mind us putting it on him, and he seems to like it. And he's not a big clothes cat. Like, if you ever see pictures of Bowie wearing clothes, I put it on him and took it off him. Like, right after the photo was taken. He's not into it usually. But he likes the Thunder shirt. Oh, okay. Thank you. I appreciate it. It switched songs. It might have switched music packs. So Anna commented earlier that the music kind of sounds like video game music, and it does. Didn't we get it from a Humble Bundle?
I think there's a couple different things in there. One of them, or some of them, might be from a Humble Bundle.
I think it is the Humble Bundle because they have like a it's like a very lax use clause. And I was like, that would work really well for streams, because that means I don't have to, like, keep up with it.
I don't know where your pop-out conversation is.
Oh, I'll have to look for it now. Don't worry about it. I can find it.
Okay.
That's it. Yeah. Only for like a brief minute. I talked to Lee for a couple of hours one day. I'm kind of loud anyway. Sorry. Like, me as a person is kind of loud. So
yeah, but they have to be able to hear you.
Yeah, I wasn't complaining. I was just saying. So usually when I'm editing video, I always have to kind of, oh, sorry, I'm having trouble with some of these leaves. Not on them, just on me. So one of the good things about cellulose papers is that they dry very quickly. And this one is drying very quickly, but not overly quickly. Like, I'm not mad at the paper. I'm just pointing out that it's going to be a quicker drying paper. So as like an afternoon activity or an evening chill activity, the quickness of the drying, the faster dry times is good because it facilitates you finishing the project in one sitting. I find I'm kind of going through the paint rather quickly, which isn't surprising because it is very student grade. It has been doctored up with a fair amount of optical brighteners, but I have to say, so I have a bunch of student grade showdown watercolor reviews that I haven't finished editing yet. I'm still doing the voice work on them. And I have reviewed so many kind of gnarly, cheap, dye based half pan watercolors that just make me question my choices in life and my sanity. And these are not bad. These are, I don't know what they are yet. I haven't swatched them all, so I can't quite tell you, but they're better than that. So big ups to Artist Loft. Last time I reviewed Artist Loft watercolors, they were Pabio watercolors in disguise. I don't think these are Pabio watercolors. Although I kind of suspect they might be Superior watercolors just because Superior does a lot of the little chiclet style watercolor sets kind of like this. So that would be in their wheelhouse. But I'd have to do some digging. And even doing some digging, I might not be able to figure out who it is. But no, there was no paint information on the package, no color names, definitely not any pigment info, because why would they do that? Why would they provide that? Why do I think those paints are like a $5? Yeah. Oh, they're a little nicer than the $5 USD paints on Amazon, because I've been reviewing a lot of the around $20 paint sets on Amazon, and those are terrible. I can see why people buy them, but they're not fun to paint with. They're punishing to review. These aren't so bad.
Can you tell if the lines are going to wash away? Or
They're not. No.
It's just so light.
The intention is it's so light that it's either going to look like a pencil drawing or you're not even going to see it. So when I do the paint your state kits, I'm going to do the dissolving blue lines and explain how to stretch it to remove the blue lines. I mean, there's some things I can't replicate even if I wanted to. I just don't have access to the kind of toner printer that would be able to print on heavier weight watercolor paper in the amounts that I would need to make it feasible. With mine, I can kind of trick it to print on 90 pound, but it gets really fussy about it and doesn't want to do it. So that's not really gonna work. And I've tried bringing it to like places like Office Max or Office Depot, and most of the time they look at me like I've lost my entire mind and they don't understand what I'm trying to do or why I'm trying to do it. The other half of the time, they get what I'm trying to do and they're like, oh, that's a cool idea, but they can't. Their machines won't let them do it. You have to have them set it as like ivory paper because otherwise their machines don't see the paper for some reason. I don't know. I had this phase like 3 years ago when I was teaching a lot of watercolor classes at Plaza where I really wanted to be able to give them ready to go toner printed lines, and I just couldn't find a way to make it happen sustainably that didn't cost me an arm and a leg. Okay, so now I can finally start doing the interior. And I really just wanted to paint an outline kind of thing around it, just so that it looks like it exists on the paper. Yeah, these paints are getting used up kind of fast. I would be surprised if you could do all four. Especially
with the palette.
Yeah, with the palette that they had. But it's not a bad painting experience. It's not like the best painting experience, but it's better than I expected, so I'm already excited and happy about it. I'm having fun with it, so.
Can you look at the package and look at the palette and see if the colors they chose is coordinated?
Yeah, I can do that in a minute. It seemed, when I like gave it a cursory glance when I was first talking to you guys about it, it looked like it was the same, but I wasn't like doing a one-to-one check. But I can in a minute. It's too relaxing. Well, that's a good sign because it shows me that even with no instructions, a kit like this can be fun.
But how many people would know to color the background first?
You can do whatever you want with it, but I don't know. It depends on how many people are kind of familiar with watercolor. I'm more thinking about it along the lines of like the kits I'm gonna do. For Paint Your State, I think there's only gonna be one Louisiana in there. I'm not gonna do like 4 different designs. But if I did like a fleur-de-lis one, I'd probably have a few different designs.
I think maybe you should do like a Louisiana centric one. And
that's the Paint Your State is going to be Louisiana. I'm not doing
more because if you're going to include a brush and paints, you kind of want to.
You want to make it worth it.
They can, yeah.
That might be a good idea.
4, you don't necessarily need 4, but I would do at least
2.
3. Yeah.
Whew. I want to try to have them for the Andouille Festival, which is mid-October, and definitely for the Heritage Festival, which is in November. I've got the Paint Your State will be easy, but the fleur-de-lis stuff, I'm going to have to generate that. I'm not complaining, I'm just, logisticking. I will say that I haven't used their brush yet. I will, I promise, but it's not a good brush. And if you were to try to use their included brush to do the background, it would be very patchy. So I'm gonna go in. Oh man, they're ultramarine blue. That's not even ultramarine blue. It's like a vetiver blue. It's a really light pastel-y blue. Wanted to go in some areas and kind of. Oh, and some had already dried. Just add a little extra blue in areas where it looks like it might still be wet or is dry enough that I could like blend it out with the water a bit, so it's not just like you see that harsh wet over dry line. Oof. This is so bad because I'm definitely like making myself sleepy. This would be a good activity to like wind down with because it's not even my art. So if it doesn't turn out great, I don't care. I'm good with it.
It's interesting you say it's not your art because you are painting it.
Not my line art.
Sure.
It's a collab between me and Michael. I can see value in, even if you know how to draw and you like to draw, I can see value in doing something like this because it gives you, it changes the stakes, if not entirely takes the stakes away, and you can just paint and just kind of zone out and enjoy it, which is not always something you can experience when it's your art because sometimes it gets too personal. Even if you're like a trust the process kind of person. It was raining yesterday and the day before. There's a 20% chance a tropical storm might have I hope not, by next Wednesday. Anna says, I love saying vetiver. I pronounce it differently every time. That's my trick for any art word that like I'm not sure how it's pronounced and I look it up and I still can't catch it. I'm like, I'll just say it wrong in a different way every time and just take everybody off. Now, y'all are actually incredibly, incredibly nice. I'm sure I mispronounce things all the time. And part of that is my mouth just betrays me. I have a stutter, and just sometimes the word salad is my enemy. I'm just kind of picking at it now. I don't have to. I just wanted to add some slightly darker areas. But honestly, if we're going to finish these sunflowers together tonight, and I'm hoping to, I need to get on it, get moving. Okay, so normally if I were painting leaves, what I would want to do is a base coat, you know what, yellow. A base coat of yellow and then do like a green or a blue on top of it to get that kind of fresh optical blending. I'm going to do it anyway, even though I have no idea if they will or not. But you know, there's only one way to find out. And it's someone else's line art, so if I goof it, maybe I can save it. I don't know. Also, part of the concern is, like, there's just not a lot of paint here. And I think...
Oh, this... on the first painting, that's an issue.
Yeah, and that's also something to pay attention to. Like, you guys see, I'm not being wasteful with the paint. I'm not being stingy either, but I'm not, like, mixing up huge amounts that I'm not using. So if I run out of paint on the first one, just kind of quote-unquote normally painting, that's definitely something to consider. That's also something for me to consider with the paint kits I want to do, is how to include just enough paint for them to do what they want to do with maybe a little left over, but not so much paint that they're not going to use it and it might end up in the trash. This is good. I don't, other than like with comics, I don't get to like market test other products too often. Does that make sense? Like stuff I'm considering offering. But I would love, I don't want to make my own art supplies myself, but I would love to work with people on making art supplies. Like a friend of mine and I have been talking about doing a custom, because they make handmade watercolors as a hobby and they enjoy doing it. And they would be open to doing like a small limited edition set for me to sell in the shop. And I would love to do that, but the hold up with that is we want to do it, and we want to do it together in person, and they live in Delaware, so that's gonna wait for a little while. Now, another thing, I don't have great confidence that these are going to do well wet into wet. Didn't see me squeegee the brush onto the paper. So wasteful. I purposefully say stuff like Jojo Bruh, or Jojo Ba for Jojoba, or Quinoa. Off the top of my head, there's like a million dumb things Joseph and I say, but off the top of my head, I can't think of them. But that's because I had a migraine earlier today, so my brain is like, no, we're not doing that. No, that's not. You think you're going to be funny and clever today? No, that's not going to happen. Oh, Joseph asked me to compare it against. Oh, okay, hang on. I gotta do it in the correct. Without having swatched them, they do look like a photo of the same paints, just maybe a little darker, like maybe the photo wasn't taken.
I meant of the 4 illustrations, does it look like you could produce those with the palette, or is the palette just a generic palette?
Oh, well, I'll have to pull it out again. So, it depends. Do you know how to mix colors, or do you not know how to mix colors?
Let's say you don't know how to mix
colors. No, because we've got like a pastel peachy color, and I don't see that you could get that easily if you know how to mix, but you're not going to get that. This purple, I think they included purple, and I haven't swatched it yet, so I don't know for sure, and their ultramarine blue was way lighter than I expected. This is like more like a light lavender, like usually that would be like a semi-opaque watercolor if they were to include that, so no. Maybe this, although I would achieve this by mixing a blue with a purple. And as for this really light blue, yeah, maybe with the cerulean, but there's a touch of green in there. So I mean, it's a digital.
I don't mean exact. I mean.
Oh yeah, you could get close
produce
enough.
a very close
Yeah, you could get close
look
enough.
without having to do mixing.
I'd have to swatch all the colors to tell you. But that's not really, I don't think that's really the point of a kit like this. To do like color by numbers, all the colors you need are ready for you. I don't think they're trying to be that kit. Alright, so I'm using the same yellow that I used for the leaves, mixed a little bit more concentratedly. Also, for the kind of blends I'm doing, you're going to want 2 brushes at least. And they only gave 1, because I'm trying to do a lot of wet into wet. Okay. Dab that in kind of close to the center, and that way it'll kind of bleed out into the petals. And that's why I'm going to work on these in segments, because this is a cellulose paper, so it's going to dry really quick. But if I do it in segments, I can catch it while it's still wet enough that we can get that diffusion. But you want to be careful, because as you guys can see, it's like really flooding out there. I'm also going to kind of bleed it into the sunflower seed part, the center part. It's a little bit. But honestly, with just a little bit of blue tape, and a lot of people have blue tape around the house, like this isn't like a super specialty tape. You can get it at Walmart. It's doing a good job holding the paper taut. So I'll give them kudos for that this paper isn't so budget that it's just buckling all over the place. I reviewed a fair amount of like Five Below art supplies, and their alcohol marker stuff is alright, but their watercolor is terrible. Rhymes with frog bit. Having tips and tricks wouldn't be a bad thing, but yeah, full-on hand-holding, not so much fun. Yeah, well, yeah, A and B. Like, it would be, this is like way higher market than what this kit is trying to be, but if they had like a tips and trick booklet that was separate from, or like stuff to try that was separate from the hand holding, or if the hand holding was like a YouTube link or something, that way you can get both the people who already know how to paint and they might just want to paint for relaxation, or they're just looking for something fun, or they're trying to get someone they care about into watercolor and they think this is going to be kind of an easy way to do that. Then, you know, they don't need the hand holding. But if somebody picked this up and they were like, oh, this is going to teach me how to watercolor, because like even though I only paid $5 for it and full price is $10, and that's very budget, and especially because this isn't that bad, I was kind of expecting more hand holding, so I was really surprised at how sparse it was in there. But I think that would make the cost, I mean, paying an artist to create a step-by-step guide would add on to the cost. Of course, some companies get around that by they hire an art. Okay, so a publisher who was interested in me for a minute, it was for like a how to draw figures book, and they're like a mass market publisher, and they do a lot of this kind of stuff. So the way they work, and this kind of shook me, was they hire different artists to work with their writer, and the writer is the person who writes the step by step, but their writer doesn't know how to draw. She seemed very nice, but I was really like, that sounds like a mess of a process. Obviously I did not end up working with them, but that was kind of eye-opening for me, that for like a lot of those how to draw books, the artist isn't the one coming up with the steps, which for some of the like worst ones that makes sense, because you know, you'll notice they skip steps. Like it'll be like draw a circle for an owl, and then they go from like the circle to like a fully drawn out owl, and you're like, how did you do that? telling Joseph today that I don't have a lot of like well-known success under my belt, but I've done a lot of things. I've auditioned for a lot of things. I've tried a lot of things. I've talked to a lot of people. So like I've seen a lot of like behind the curtain stuff. And if my life ever pops off, I'm going to be unstoppable because I know a lot. And Dawn said, I love to color mix. I believe the kit should have 6 primary colors. Commission a set from Royal Talons of Sinelli or Sinellier student range, have bigger pans. I could see that. If you were going to do that, I would recommend going with, depending on the market you're going for, simpler imagery. Yes, Joseph is right. I have the experience, but not the accolades, and that makes it very challenging to convince someone to give me a shot. Okay, so next, while this is still kind of wet, I'm going to go with the yellow ochre. Oh, that is a very weak yellow ochre. That's usually one of the signs that I know a set is a cheap set. Not that I didn't know this was a cheap set. There's no fooling me with this one. But if the yellow ochre is cheap, weak, doesn't have any granulation, really fades to nothing when you add water, then usually that's how you know it's a bad watercolor set. Now see, I feel you with the color mixing, but I'm glad these colors are mostly mixed for me because I don't know that I would want to spend that time with this set. Because these paints are, and I know you were suggesting going with something a little higher market. These paints are not up to the color mixing. They seem okay. Ooh, why are you barely going over that yellow? They seem okay for like just straight up layers. But like the burnt sienna, oh man, not a good burnt sienna. Very dye looking. Okay, so I think I'm gonna go in just a little bit with this weird darker brown. That's probably, yeah, also terrible, and maybe a little bit of black, just to, is that a black or is that a dark brown? Who cares? Just in the center for now, and kind of let it diffuse out. And then we can start the leaves and the stalks. Now, how do I want to do this? Some of the references have kind of like a pretty burnishing on the edges of the leaves. Do I feel like being that brave? Probably not. I do not actually know how blue those two greens are. Knowing how to get the most out of inexpensive art supplies is really an important skill. I do feel like though, and this might just be like a personal taste thing, you do hit a limit of what you can do with like the really cheap stuff, like Crayola, really cheap stuff, or like the really cheap stuff on Amazon. I mean, I've been reviewing some real head scratchers. But also, like, they're not cheap enough that you would give them a pass for being cheap, right? Like, they cost enough that you're like, this is actual money that someone is spending on this set. And then you get a little upset because it's like, that's money kind of wasted for them, for that person. I mean, I feel like to a degree I can identify with like the cheap art supply struggle because I'm from rural Louisiana, which For a long time, money for art supplies was just not a thing. If you couldn't get it at Walmart, you probably weren't going to be getting it. I'm using this pseudo sap green on the leaves. I mean, it's probably not as much of a struggle as it is in Belize. I'm more saying that I can identify with that struggle to an extent. I mean, even now, good art supplies, if you buy them in store, are just way more expensive here than they were in Nashville. And it's probably just an economy of scale. Like, there's possibly not enough people interested in buying those particular supplies. That's part of the reason why I do. You know, I think that kind of education, for all its flaws and for all its hiccups, is important work. I know you're not saying it isn't. I'm just thinking about it. It doesn't. People don't treat you with respect. At least not here. They don't recognize what you're doing. A lot of them see it as babysitting, and they don't treat their babysitters well, so they're not going to treat you well. But I think despite all that, it's good work, and it's valuable work, and it's important work. And I definitely believe that you can't complain about the world if you're not trying to do anything to improve it. Oh, Nicole asked, are the paints more gummy or chalky? They are chalky, which I prefer over gummy. Dawn said it takes patience and skills to work with paints, brushes, and paper that are budget friendly. Really, patience. I agree with that. Anna said, this looks great considering the lower end materials. Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. Dawn said, Crayola is high-end brand in my country. Affordable brands here are Crazy Art and Basic. I think Basic is a Dollar Tree brand over here. Hannah said, some cheap art supplies are good. Praying and Crayola really aren't bad for the price, not archival, of course. That's true. And Rachel, hey, good evening. Crayola washable is 100% a learning experience. There's a big difference between Crayola washable and their educational watercolors in terms of how they handle. Like a lot of difference. And those dried really light and just like nothing. Those dried to nothing. These are dye based. These are dye based on chalk. Not my fave. Not by a long shot. Let's keep painting.
So at what point is it not even really watercolor?
You can still call it watercolor, I think. I don't think there's like a technical difference. Well, I'm sure there is if I went digging for it, but I don't think dye is the limit, because then you've got like radiant watercolors. I just don't like them because when you add water, they turn to nothing, and it's just such a, like, one of the beautiful things about watercolor is like the translucency of it, but also that you can make expensive paints stretch a really long way because they stay luminous and hold a lot of their saturation even in a wash. And cheap paints require layer after layer after layer after layer, which, yeah, the patience end of it, but also like it does eat up your paints. So they're not lasting as long as you might want them to last. And it just takes so much more work to build up the color. But, you know, you do have to work with what is available to you. And absolutely no shade, no disparagement to people who are making art with those supplies. So much respect to people who are making art with those supplies. That said, if you have access to better and you can do the research and buy with an education, you know what I mean? Like, you've done the research, so you're going in and you're buying something specifically because you researched it and you know what you're getting. I think to not do that, you are doing yourself a disservice. But that might just be me plug in my own channel. Does AliExpress ship to Belize by any chance? Because they do have some brands that are actually pretty dang good. They might be kind of on the pricier end, but I know accessibility is like a big part of it. Haven't seen Crayola educational brand, only washable. I have never seen the educational in stores, but I've purchased it on Amazon. So that's kind of how I know about it. I don't know why it's not more widely accessible. It's a lot better than the washable. It's not as washable as the washable, but it's still a glycerin-based watercolor product. So it's still pretty washable. Glycerin and dye. When it comes to talking about spending money on art supplies, I always want to tread very carefully because I do not want it to sound like I am disparaging people who are using the cheaper art supplies. I do think it takes a lot of skill to do that. But I also don't like when companies are making a cheap product and then selling it at a higher price point because they can get away with it. So it's always kind of a balancing act. In my earlier YouTube days, I had people accuse me of being classist because they felt that I was disparaging them for using cheap art supplies, and I am like genuinely sorry if it came across that way. I came from like lower middle class. I came from a very Louisiana family. Both my parents worked, but my dad worked in the oil industry and my mom worked as a teacher. And I have a younger sibling with some serious health issues, so we never had like a lot of money. And art was something they'd encouraged, but they didn't have the money to fund it. So, and then in Louisiana schools, art education is very, very hit or miss. I had some good art teachers who were artists and cared a lot about art, and I also lost all access to art classes by my senior year of high school. Well, by high school, because of the honors program I was in just blocked us out from those kind of or they're not really extracurricular, but you get what I'm saying. So like I don't ever want to come across like I am disparaging people on a fixed income or with a lower budget for art supplies or with limited lack of access to art education, because to a degree I came from those kind of roots and my husband came from those kind of roots. So like that's not my intention, and I try to be really careful about it now because I do want to give fair, honest reviews. I don't want to cut a company slack just because their product is cheap. I don't think that's a good enough reason. Like if it's cheap and garbage, then it's just cheap and garbage. And I'd rather be able to find the stuff that is inexpensive and good so I can recommend it to people. And I mean, different countries and different locations have different accessibility. If you live around like San Francisco, you're going to have access to Daiso, and Daiso has some great art supplies for the price point that are much more fun to use than like American Dollar Tree. So location is also a type of accessibility and a type of privilege to an extent, because what is in your immediate area, what museums, what art education, what library programs are in your area is a type of privilege. AliExpress used to, but now the shipping is through the roof. I just got a nebulizer machine today. I ordered in December of 2019. What did they think it would do? Yeah, Hannah, if you'd like to. It's been a long time since I've gotten to go to a Daiso. Like 2019, I think, was the last time I was able to go to San Francisco. And there's a Daiso in either Austin or Houston, or there might be one in both. And I've been trying to go to Houston partially so I can go to the Mitsuwa market over there. But that's a hard sell because it's just kind of a longish trip there and back. It's like 5 hours, which isn't the worst, but it's like right on that cusp of being like, oh, but I don't want to do that. That's kind of a long trip. But I've been trying to talk Joseph into us going to Austin for a week. Ooh, I keep like zoning out. It's hot in here and I've got like all the lights in the world on me. And I'm wearing a sweater. And I'm just like getting sleepy kitten syndrome. And I'm just trying to paint these sunflowers, somewhat following the lines that they have. Give me a sec. My brain is like, okay. When I use Crayola washable paints with Crayola watercolor pencils, it seems to work. That's good. Joseph invited me to Dallas, but I said I didn't want to go there if there was no Muji. He speaks no lies. I'd probably go to Dallas. They have a Blick. Hannah says at least 3 of them in driving distance here alone. Oh, I'm so jealous. Hannah loves sunflowers, and they are so pretty already. Thank you. Hannah said the Muji stores here are closed, sadly. Oh, I love Muji. There's something about their very simplistic stationery that I love it. And Jennifer said it's hot in Texas. Well, I'm in Louisiana, and normally it's hot here too, but it's been raining a lot, so it's actually been very temperate. And Anna said, I keep expecting to see Kara peeking out from one of the leaves. Maybe with one of the other ones, I should do that. I should make it my own. I feel like I'm too far down this rabbit hole to add Kara at this point, but for one of the other ones, I think I could. I'm not going to do it tonight, but I like that idea. All right, I'm going to try going in and working on the center with the burnt sienna. I'm going to kind of like dab it. At some point, I need to like use their brush. And I'm just kind of doing, oh, this thing has like no oomph to it, but we'll work with that. We will figure it out. I'm having fun, honestly, just painting the designs. Oh, you know what would be fun? Is drawing Kara into like other pieces of art. Like these kinds of things, or coloring book pages. Like as like a little seek and find kind of thing, because I am a nerd. I wonder how that's gonna dry. And I'm just doing kind of like a stippling sort of motion with it. This will take a little longer to dry though, because we've got some water pooling over there. We'll see though. It is very hot in here, so it might be quicker than I think. And I'm trying to leave some of that yellow still visible, or some of those undercolors still visible, so that we get that kind of like, I want to say popcorn texture, but I don't mean like popcorn the food. I mean popcorn the wall treatment. Okay. Hang on, I gotta... Joseph said that I painted his brother's family. I did, and at the time they had 1 child. And the reference photo I received had 1 child. I thought he said nothing when he got it. But apparently Joseph said he asked about adding another kid. I mean, if it was digital art, I could do it, or if it was acrylic or oils, I could do it. And I'm not doing oils or acrylic.
I mean, compositionally, it would just be weird to just like throw in a kid
I,
in there.
if given time, I could figure out how to do it. But the thing is, his brother never said anything to me about the painting at all. Didn't say he got it, didn't say he liked it, didn't say he didn't like it, didn't say anything. And Anna's in Florida, and we're having alternating intense heat and then thunderstorms. Like Zeus is having a temper tantrum. Yeah, we're getting some of the same weather. I think, though, that horrible weather is at least keeping us from getting, knock on wood, knock on wood, knock on wood, knock on wood, any storms this year. Because no whammies, no idas. And Joseph was like, that's not really how paintings work. Technically, I guess there could be. And Dawn said, maybe I should send Hannah to get me some Daiso art supplies. I miss Daiso. I miss Daiso too. Intense heat followed by thunderstorms is cruel. That's like Louisiana summers, though. Da, 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 da. Hurricane whammy is sure to do. No, none. No, none. And Rachel said, I hate it when you don't know if someone received a thing. No, I knew he got it because Joseph gave it to him. I'm being petty, so I'm gonna be quiet.
It was a gift from me.
Yeah, Joseph commissioned me to do it. Well, asked me. He's done so much for me, I didn't charge him or anything like that. He asked me if I would, and I said sure. Because I genuinely do like drawing people's kids, and I like drawing families. Oh, that green is kind of funky. That green is kind of weird. What are we gonna do with it? Sorry, I'm in the phase of the evening where I'm like, if I sing about it, that'll fix it, right? Maybe. Singing makes everything 50% better. Okay, I want to leave some of like the dabbleness of the leaves that you guys can kind of see them in the reference. Like where we're getting like these patches of light and patches of darker. Do any of you guys use TikTok? And follow-up question, do you ever get TikTok specific songs stuck in your head?
You mean songs that have been remixed for TikTok?
Yes, or songs written for TikTok, or people who use TikTok created on TikTok. But mostly it's like joke remixes, or like clips from like other things that have been turned into songs. Kind of like that. Oh, by the way, if you guys see me like making weird faces, I'm just looking at the reference and thinking. At shows I have been accused of having RBF. I've had people ask if I was angry.
It doesn't help that you're staring at the camera making weird faces.
I know, that's why I'm explaining. It's just, I mean, most artists know that other artists make weird faces because they themselves make weird faces. I just wanted y'all to know it wasn't like at y'all. Kind of goofed on this one, so I'm gonna... No, it's in the background, so that's how it's supposed to look. I don't know. I could do something with it later, maybe.
When's the cutoff for this frame?
I'm gonna finish this because I'm not actually that far off. Well, if that dries, I'm not super far off from finishing it.
Okay.
It's not gonna be like an 11 o'clock stream. I actually kind of had fun with this. Partially because, like, I care, but I'm not, like, stressed. I'm just vibing, chilling.
Are you normally stressed working on art?
If I'm streaming it, I am, because it's hard for my brain to both talk and paint. Like, think about what I want to do with...
For everyone. They just pretend like it's not.
Well, I don't mind admitting it. But this, because it's not my art, and I don't care if it looks perfect, and I'm not gonna, like, win any awards. I'm not aiming to win any awards with it or anything like that. I can just, like, enjoy it and just chat and not worry about, like, messing up. I will say these paints are not gonna get very saturated. It's just not in their formulation. So it's better if you have kind of a light art style in mind if you're not hoping to get that like super contrast, because these just don't have the oomph for it. But I'm still having fun. I am having more than $5 worth of fun. I might even be having $10 worth of fun, which is the full price. So, good job.
Even if you weren't doing it on stream.
I would not do this on stream because I don't allow myself to do art for fun, because I only believe in bad vibes. No, I mean, some of that is true, but that's not me advocating that mindset. I probably, if I was painting it with you, or like with a friend who is like,
I was thinking that's why at least two would be a good idea, so that.
Yes, paint together, yeah. Two of the same.
I don't know about two of the same.
Two of the similar.
That might be two. Yeah, two similar would be good. Because I wouldn't try to encourage like competition, but if it's two similar things, I think that would work well. Also, you could have a palette that condones that.
That's gonna take some thinking. I'm not fishing for compliments. I'm just saying, like, it's not my best, but I'm having fun. And that's I'm kind of a type A personality because art doesn't come naturally to me. So that's kind of, so having fun and not like stressing out is something I don't normally let myself do. So it's kind of nice. I wonder if any of these blues. Yes, okay, all right. We got one that might be green enough to work. Oh, but it's not very dark. Oh well. If it looks good on camera, that's what matters, right?
Does this pick itself as a coloring? Like, is it with the coloring books? I think is what I'm getting.
No, well, where was it? So the first time I saw one like this, it was around Christmas, and you talked me out of getting it. Probably with good reason, but I am having fun with it, so it's not a waste. And it wasn't by the coloring books. It was just kind of like a weird ink cap by the watercolor supplies, but not with watercolor supplies. And I got it at Michael's, so those of you who know Michael's, you know,
so
like...
It's more with the kits than with the coloring books?
Kinda. What I was going to say is their end cap stuff is always, it could be anything, you know what I mean? It could be candy, it could be like Halloween stuff in July. It doesn't always make sense thematically. And then the second time I got it, it was in the art section by the watercolors, but it was an end cap on the watercolor aisle. And it was just kind of, they were liquidating it. And they had a few different sets, and I got the set I thought I would enjoy doing the most. Okay, so I'm using the darkest brown, and I'm just going in while it's still wet. And it's kind of bleeding out a little bit, which I kind of like. That's kind of what I wanted, so I'm good with it. And I'm mostly putting it in the center, but also encouraging it to kind of bleed, so we get like sun-kissed at the top, theoretically, if it doesn't just keep bleeding all the way to the edge, which is what it... Look, you got a wild heart, and you just gotta let your wild heart run free, I guess. That's my problem. My brain gets stuck on songs for days. Me too. That stupid "My Money Don't Jiggle Jiggle, It Folds" has lived in my head rent-free for 2 months. Hang on a second. Painting Mama will fix it. I would have to dress up like Painting Mama. Yeah. But I also don't want to give the implication like I'm fixing your art, like your art is broken. But maybe like, here's some suggestions that might make it better or might make it easier for you. That could be a fun thing to do. So long as people know I'm not like trying to pretend that I'm better than them or anything. Jennifer said, I really like how you color leaves. Thank you. I am heavily referencing it, and I am also being like kind of just playing with it, which is nice. Art for fun. How dare. That's right. Everything has to be. So I've seen, speaking of TikTok, I've seen this kind of pop up a little bit in sounds that like, sometimes it's nice to just share art for fun and not hope that it'll go viral. And I'm an old person, so like this isn't necessarily always at the top of my head, but it's often at the top of my head enough that it's stressful. The thought that each piece could be totally the piece that makes it or breaks it. This could be it. This could be your big break. This might be the video or the TikTok or the illustration that gets you that gig, that gets your foot in the door. And like I definitely have those feelings, and it's definitely like a lot of hope, but it's also stressful when that's everything you share is with the quiet hope like this could be the one, this could be the door opener. Because like when you create with that mindset, yes, there is a lot of hope, and I'm not saying you should never create with that mindset, not by a long shot, but it also creates a lot of disappointment and a lot of burnout when there was a piece that you really liked and you really thought it was going to resonate with people and it just flops. And so a while back I joined this art educators Patreon club, and one of the things that they said recently that I've been thinking about a lot is they said that specific art doesn't do well. It's generic art that does well because people, hey Maddie, it's good to see you. I'm old. We're both old by internet standards, you know, because we've had all these like internet generations, and I'm like LiveJournal and AIM, which, you know, but it's like different mindsets. And like some of the kids I teach are very like, they're not even YouTube anymore. They don't even want to be YouTube famous. They don't care about YouTube. They care about TikTok. They're going to be TikTok famous, which they might. I mean, TikTok loves teenagers. But the thing that was said in the A Club that resonated with me, or is bouncing around in my brain right now, is that people don't necessarily really like when they're just buying art or looking at art and not necessarily commissioning something. They don't like specifics unless it's a famous person that everybody knows, like Marilyn Monroe would sell. They like generic stuff because it's more relatable. And I've been kind of letting that marinate in my brain because, like, okay, in Louisiana, if you paint a fleur-de-lis on it, it will probably sell. And I have really resisted doing anything with fleur-de-lis on it because I didn't want to be that person, but maybe now I want to be that person. Maybe I'm ready to accept it. Maybe I'm ready to figure out a way that I can paint fleur-de-lis that will say Becca Hilburn, but also find a place in your kitchen. Like maybe I'm ready for that. So I'm kind of letting that marinate in my brain box. I should not have done that. That orange is not it. But you know what? I did it. We committed. We're going to move on. But for real, that orange is not it. Maybe for the other one I can go a little lighter. Got to make it look intentional. I was busy messing with graphic designs for a Twitter page. Oh, and Joseph said, I don't agree with that. I think you create highly specific things to create a loyal small audience, and then you slowly generalize to grow. But maybe I'm in my generalized... Look, I'm not saying I'm going to, like, not paint tiny people. Quite frankly, I'm about to, like, ramp up my tiny people BS. All right? Like, Joseph and I were talking about my next story after Kara. It's another tiny people story. Who's surprised? So, like... I'm not done with that yet. But in terms of like working craft fairs and earning a living as like an artist who sells original stuff, maybe it's time to do stuff that's a little more relatable and a little bit more everyday and a little more generic. I have 2 dozen good next projects and most don't. No, it's either witches or tiny people. But the witch stuff is going to be prose novels, probably. Maybe with spot illustrations, but I don't feel like drawing it. But I like the story a lot, and that's part of the reason why I don't want to draw it, is because I think I would pull punches for the witch stories. I think I would pull punches so that I could actually draw it and it looked good, and I don't want to do that. Honestly, if I'm going to write those, I got to get back on my meds because my focus has been garbage. I can't hold 3 thoughts in my head. Kind of the Bob's Burgers of painting. Great food, but not appreciated. Oh, maybe that's why I always found Bob kind of relatable. And aren't there like Bob's Burgers cookbooks?
Yeah, there is one.
I think his problem, and maybe this is my problem too, his restaurant doesn't look like it would have good burgers. You know, like his kids man the restaurant.
But what does a place that looks like it would have good burgers
Unfortunately, well, okay. Like, are we good? Are we really? I'll have this conversation.
I feel like if it's too high end, if it's too
No. But like Bob's looks like the seats are sticky.
Yeah.
And I don't know about y'all, but if the seats are sticky, I can't.
That's
I cannot.
That has good hot dogs.
That's a place that has good snowballs, because the seats are sticky from the snowballs. Oh dear, you know what? I don't care. I'm good. I'm at peace with the world. I'm in my lane. I'm moisturized. I'm vibing. We're good with it. Give me a sec. Let me get caught up. Okay. Maddie said, I forgot I was painting flowers from the coloring kit. How's the paper? Better than I expected.
Yeah, you haven't had any
but not, yeah, I haven't really. It's not, if I were doing, hang on, I've not tried the brush yet. If I were doing my art on it, I would hate this paper. Because it's got like a really even cold press texture to it. However, the weight is good. It worked well for what I was painting here, and I just held it down with some blue tape, and I haven't really had too many problems with it, so the paper is surprisingly decent. Joseph said that the paints are where I had a problem. Yeah, mostly the neutrals are where you can really tell they're dye-based, and they just don't. The neutrals just didn't do what I wanted them to do, but I wasn't trying to be super specific and literal, so I'm good with it. I don't care. Anna said, there is. I'm a vegetarian and I still have it. I bet some of those would work well with like a good veggie burger or a good bean burger. Like, because a lot of it is like the combination, not just the meat. Rachel said, no joke. I want the world to see your art. Me too. Me too.
The king came down.
The king!
Tower.
The boy! The son! I don't know if the camera will pick him
have
off.
To make it bigger.
No.
We'll do that.
I'm sorry.
I'll have to get out of the way.
It it's not gonna pick him up.
Yeah, you're covering his shirt.
No, I'm trying to show it. He's got his thunder shirt on. You make a boy. All right, you're free. You're free, darling.
You can make it smaller.
No, I'm gonna make them look at me in grainy, horrible texture. He is a good boy. He tolerates us. Okay, I think I'm gonna try introducing some red with that orange and see if I can't, I don't know about that, get some nuance and visual interest. Okay, all right. Their brush is not great, but it is okay for details. It pulls like a nice, good line, you know? So like if you wanted to like get in there and do some details, it would be great. However, it does not hold any water. It wants to drip all over the place. So I would not recommend it as like a wash brush. They really should have done 2 brushes. Maybe not even like another round. Maybe like a flat or a filbert. Just something that can cover like the big areas a little bit better. I was also very sloppy with you're sloppy. I was very sloppy with this, and I don't care. I had fun, and I got to hang out with you guys and paint, and that is a win. I normally like stress myself out when I'm like trying to paint and talk to you guys because like I want it to turn out good, and with this I'm just like, it's fine. I had fun. And as Dawn pointed out earlier, there are other people who do watercolor kits online. Etsy is probably, excuse me, I got cat hair in my nose. Etsy's probably full of pretty good watercolor kits. Maybe that is something I will explore at some point. Because I kind of just enjoyed like vibing with y'all and just painting and not like stressing myself out. I'm going to post a picture of this, maybe not to my Instagram, but to the community tab for sure.
Too embarrassed?
No, it's more like I'm real weird. I don't want people to think I did all the art if I didn't do all the art. Unless I collabed with a friend and then I'm tagging the friend.
Your friend Michael.
My friend Michael. My friend Artist Loft. My good buddy. Friend of the channel who I beat up all the time. Friend and channel punching bag Artist Loft. I think they only come in, I think the Thunder shirts for cats only come in gray right now. Because I didn't actually, my mom bought that for Dax, her orange bitey boy. And he's wild. He's not going to let her put it on him. So she gave it to me because Bowie has diagnosed anxiety ever since his sisters died. His sisters, by the way, were like 2 22-year-old tortoiseshells who wanted nothing to do with him. So it's not like his like litter mates died, but so it seems to work. He seems to like it. He lets us put it on him. He seems very chill and relaxed, but maybe it's just hindering his movement because it's got Velcro and stuff on it.
Blood flow to his brain.
I hope not. We don't just leave it on him, and certainly not unsupervised because that would be terrible to do. But he seems to be working for him, so that's good. I'm happy. I don't want my boy to have anxiety. I have anxiety. I don't wish that on anybody, especially not a cat. Michaels, you should hire me to do art for one of your coloring kits. The end. Except then I would demand that they credit me, and they don't want to do that. Okay, so this brush is so stiff, it will probably scratch off past layers. So I'm going to go back to my old softies and try to get like something that looks like black in the center. And to do that, I'm going to mix their really dark brown with a blue. And optically, that should work. I think the set would be a success if it's sold in Brazil for a cheap price. It is weirdly better than I expected. I was expecting to do like not even get through half of this before I just wanted to like give up and throw it into space. And to be honest, I can't tell you guys if it's because I genuinely enjoyed the set or because I enjoyed hanging out with y'all.
You think if you didn't know how to use bad paints, you would
No.
be comfortable, like you'd be happy with the results and what you're able to do?
That's okay. So I'm gonna add like a little bit of outline around it in some areas, but I'm basically done. So I'm kind of waiting for stuff to dry. So Joseph asked if I didn't know how to handle inexpensive paints, if I'd still be happy with this set. And that's like a yes/no question because there's 2 reasons I'm not familiar with inexpensive paints. One, I have only ever had nice professional grade paints. For whatever reason, my parents were rich or whatever and could afford to do that for me. So I'm not even Becca anymore. I'm some other person. I would probably be ticked off if I was that person and got this set.
I'm just someone completely inexperienced with painting. Someone who picked this up because they're like, oh, that looks fun and easy.
You know,
I'll try that.
So that's the other one I was gonna go answer. That is if they had included some tips and tricks, or if they had included step-by-step instructions that I could turn to when I wasn't sure how to handle it, I think yes. I think you could definitely enjoy this set even if you're new to watercolor. This set is not going to last 4 paintings, I'll tell you, because that ultramarine blue is going quick. What are the red things on the ends of my brush handles? So these are like these silicone caps, and it's like a hanging system. So it's got like little U's, and you hang it so that your brush can dry brush tip down. And it's supposed to like save the point so that it doesn't dry all splayed out. But as you can see, it says it's one size fits all. You gotta like rubber band it on some of them. And then the ones that have like the sliced handle ends, it'll break. It'll start to break the red silicone, whatever it is. I like the system. It's not perfect, but it works pretty good. And I'm not using it as much as I used it in Norco just because I am lazy.
Now you spend a lot of money on it.
I'm going to keep using. I'm going to go back to using it. I like the system. I'm really bad about, like, if I fall out of a habit, it's really hard for me to get back into it. So, to answer your question, I do think somebody who is newer to watercolor could have fun with this set. I personally think, but I don't think they're going to do it, that Michael should consider offering tips or instructions. And, you know, frankly, they might on their website. I didn't check. I go by what the packaging says when I do reviews. But, like, they might have watercolor tutorials on their website. I'll probably look in a minute. Oh, I don't like that. Let's see if I can. That's too even, too regular. Let's see if I can break that up a bit with my dirty watercolor water. In a minute, I'm going to pull the original up. And by the way, I wasn't like trying to recreate their reference. I have, as you guys can see, I have sunflowers up, and that's more what I was studying than like their reference. Yeah.
You don't want to paint their painting.
Their painting was done digitally, and I take offense. I take offense at that. I mean, it would be, as someone who is interested in doing watercolor kits with nicer materials, and that's going to be a challenge in that people aren't going to want to spend what it is literally going to cost. Like, even if I did the wholesale price, it's still going to be kind of like, hoo boy. Probably. We'll see. I'll try to be a very savvy shopper when putting together my kits. But, like, the kit was $10 full price. I paid $5 because I caught it on sale. It's just really hard to do anything for that price point.
I think if you maybe pitch it as like a class or a course or whatever, rather than a
well,
kit, and be like, I have all this instruction that you can.
Yeah, for the Paint Your State, I do have, and I mean for any kit I did, I would offer. Like, if you want it, it's there, and part of it, you just have to watch it.
From like this $10 kit range.
I think online people would be more willing to spend that because they know me and they like know what I'm about.
Yeah,
but like at shows, yes, exactly. And I think that would help if we had like a tablet or a TV screen playing it.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. You know what I got to do. You know what I got to do. No, I did the small brush.
Oh, how was it?
It was okay. It would have been okay for like inking it, like going in with a really saturated version of the color and pulling really tight lines. But it's drippy and it doesn't hold a lot of water, and it would not be good for covering a larger area.
Is that right?
Yeah, in my experience, that's most synthetics. So This is big. I'm done with this. If it were mine, I would do like some white gouache accents on it, but their white paint is probably very weak, and I will probably be very angry with it. So I'm not even going to mess with it.
What might also set your kit apart is if you included a little bit of brush too.
I would have to do that because with the Paint Your State, it's a mask technique.
Yeah.
So I do plan on doing that. But the thing is, oh, not brush show. I was thinking brush soap. You can use good but inexpensive bar soap or baby shampoo as a brush shampoo, and it'll work decently well. Sorry, I should be looking at yours. Dawn said, I was knocked off the internet and thunderstorm just passed through. Ooh, I hope everything's okay, and I hope it has moved on now. Maddie said, I kind of splurged on markers this week because AliExpress had a sale. Man, I caught the Jackson sale for, it seemed like 30% off watercolors, which is not bad. But I missed the AliExpress sale. And Dawn said, I made a tray to draw my brushes out of dry art clay. That's cool, like one of those like dee kind. Maddie said, I think Michael should either have some instructions in the package or at least a QR code to their webpage to a tutorial or a YouTube channel. Actually, I'll drink some water, and while I gotta get some water. Give me a sec. Sometimes you want something nicer. I would buy the Cara Food series as watercolor kits. That would be, thank you for the idea. Would you write that down?
Sure.
That could be a really cute, because I could do those as like little ones, and that would be really cute. AliExpress had a sale as a phase. I can tell means I'm having a nightmare. Okay, I'm gonna go refill my drinking water cup, and then we're gonna see if the Michael site has instructions for this. And I am going to make my own self smaller because I am distracting myself, and that's not cool. Not very cool, Becca. Hello, Boas. I love the phrase AliExpress had a sale because there are certain brands that I really like from AliExpress.
Yeah, that wasn't a joke.
Oh, you are having a personal.
Me, not you, because it means you just bought like $300 worth of more stuff.
Okay, let's see if I can find the kit. Artist Lock Watercolor Kit. Dun, dun, dun. This is what... Stop! This is what they're coming up with. Let's try watercolor. I know they've got like a project subsection too. Gee whiz, they are so pushy with the cookies. If Joseph stayed out of the way, he would live in a hovel, a house made of art supplies. It is probably for the greater good that he is at least somewhat invested in. Because on one side, he funds a lot of what I do. This looks like that This looks like that Montmartre set I reviewed. I'm going to take a look at that later. $34. Don't pay that. If it's the Montmartre set, don't pay that. However, he does rein me in from buying things to review. Not 100% though. But the part of that is, it is so easy to talk me into buying dumb, I don't mean expensive, I mean dumb things to review. It takes like nothing. And then I'm mad because it's like, oh, I feel like all I ever do is review stuff I don't like. Like this deliciousness here. $4. Can't beat that. I'm not seeing these kits. And I have actually like double backed and checked the site before. See, what I was thinking was, if I find the listing, then maybe I could find the instructions. Like maybe they linked it on the site, but I'm not seeing it. But on the other hand, if I was like, hey, there's a watercolor class that's teaching something I don't know how to do, he would encourage me to take it. I think when I hit the bottom of this page, I'm going to try something different. Or see, I would probably buy this set to review here, the Watercolor Art for Beginners set. And like, I know I'm not going to like it. Okay, let's see. Where would it be? Inspiration? Let's try projects. $80 markers for $37. That is a good deal. Joseph Sensby thinks if you think. Yeah, he does. He trawls slick deals, but art supply stuff doesn't normally, like the kind that I might be interested in, doesn't come up super often. See, Maddie, you were like my inside scoop on white labeling. There's so many things that I'm like, I get the vibe this has been white labeled, but I don't know from who. They like filed the numbers off. And Dawn said, I love your review. It is great advice on what to buy or not to buy. And Rachel's now on AliExpress. Oh, it is both a land of much regret and a land of like, oh, that's not bad. I think we might be in the land of fine art project. I wouldn't call it fine art necessarily, but we might be in that zone. Some of these are look like they'd be pretty fun to do. But it's a lot of resin, which makes sense because I know the resin stuff at Michael's is really popular. Dawn said, last time I bought a watercolor set for beginners, I realized that I need to have more knowledge and experience before using them. And I feel like that's a failure on the sets part, because if it's for beginners, they should either explain what you like. If you're missing pieces, they should be able to explain what you need and how to shop for it. Or sorry, I got distracted. Or they should explain how to do the things. Because like when they label it as for beginners, you know, that means someone who doesn't have any experience with it should be able to pick it up and do it. Duh, Becca. I'm always kind of disappointed in set like this kit here, right? There was like not really any explanation. I'm not trying to stall for time or anything. I'll probably wrap things up soon because I'm not finding any instructions on how one might go about painting this on their site. I was trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, but I don't understand it either, because there are a lot of people, I mean, they've got like watercolor projects, but there's a lot of people on YouTube who would be more than happy to take their money and create a demonstration. Okay, all right, so the instructions are: test the color opacity of your paint on a scrap piece of paper before committing it to your main painting. Work from light colors first to darkest last. For better control over details, allow paint to completely dry before applying another layer on top of it. A wet brush applied to dry paper allows for more control and uniform brush strokes. Applying paint to wet paper produces fluid results. Colors will bleed together. This technique is called wet into wet. Use less pigment and more water for lighter shades, more pigment and less water for darker shades. Use 2 containers of water while painting. Whoops. Use 2 containers of water while painting so you don't cross-contaminate colors. 1 container is to clean your brush and the other is clean water source to add to your paint. And that was the entirety. Oh, the sale's still going on. That was the entirety of their instructions. And then these are their examples. Basically, it's a watercolor texture, like a scan of watercolor paper texture, like what I use for like doing the word balloons in Cara. And then they digitally painted over it, and you can tell because it severely affects whether or not you can eat. They didn't even set it to multiply because you can't see the paper texture in the areas where they painted over it. It's so cheap. So also their sunflowers, they're like triggering my tryptophobia. It's like looking like lotus, and I just can't do that. So, all right, y'all. Ooh, making mess and making noise. It is 10:15, so we've been doing this for 2 hours. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up. The Artist Loft Watercolor Florals kit was better than I expected. It was fun for $5. I don't know that I feel like it's worth the $10 because the quality of the paints they chose is not very good. But the palette the paints are in is surprisingly like well made. And I am probably going to reuse this and fill it with paints that I like and like use it as like a travel palette because it's like one of those really compact ones. So it's not a total loss. The paper was fine. Not my personal preference for like a texture for a white, for a cellulose paper, but it did the job well, and it really suited the paints that they included. I think a paper with less texture would have not done as well with these particular paints. The paints are cheaper dye-based paints. They don't really handle the way pigment-based paints handle, but they were fine. If you're going to buy this kit, this would be a fun kit to do with somebody else, to do with a friend, maybe someone who is a little antsy about watercolor, or someone who doesn't like how they're not confident in their drawing and they don't necessarily want to draw something, but they'd like to paint. This could be a fun way to share art with them. So I feel like it fulfilled what it set out to do. It's not promising to be fine art. It's not priced to be fine art. However, if you paint something you like with these, because they're dye-based, they're going to be very light fugitive, and it's going to fade very quickly. So I do think that is something that you should be aware of before you dive into this. So Maddie said, I also bought alcohol inks from Markers. On AliExpress, they're selling individuals or bundles of the Fine Color brand. Yeah, I'm familiar with that, and that's a really common brand to white label. Like a lot of the cheaper alcohol markers that they sell in the States are just Fine Color with a new name printed on the side. It's cool that they're selling the inks though. I'm gonna go check that out. Sorry, I'm like so dry. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I hope you guys had a good time. I had a good time. It was fun to just kind of like relax and paint with you guys, and not like stress out about the paint, which is rare for me, so I appreciate it. I will take a picture of this and post it to the community tab because the camera isn't really doing a very good job reflecting the color, and that's fine. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I will probably see you next Friday, but I'm not sure because I have a lot of like stuff to get through next week. So I'll let you guys know by like Thursday or Wednesday if we're doing a stream on Friday night. I had a lot of fun hanging out with you guys. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. And I will hopefully see you next Friday, but I'll let you know. Bye, guys. Have a wonderful weekend. I am looking for the tab that had the studio. So I'm gonna sing a dumb little song to you guys. And I'm sorry that you have to listen.